The stars looked different when you owned them. Admiral Kethvar pressed his 4 hands against the viewing window of his flagship and smiled. Each point of light in the darkness represented another world his empire had taken. 17 star. Systems now bowed to the crystal throne of Zephyr Prime. "Sir, we are approaching the target system," announced his communications officer. The alien's voice carried the respectful fear that Kethvar had come to expect from his crew. They knew what happened to those who disappointed him. Kethvar turned away from the window and walked across the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. His footsteps echoed in the vast chamber, each sound a reminder of his power. Around him, dozens of crew members worked at stations made from living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. The Zephyrian way was elegant and efficient. "Show me our forces," he commanded. The main display came alive with tactical information. 300 ships filled the screen, arranged in perfect formation like a school of deadly fish. Destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and support vessels all moved together through the void. It was the largest fleet the Empire had ever assembled for a single conquest. "The humans call this place Sol," reported his intelligence officer. 1 star, 8 major planets, countless smaller bodies. Population estimates suggest 10 billion inhabitants across multiple worlds. Kethvar's secondary eyes studied the data while his primary ones remained fixed on the display. The humans had been cut off from the rest of the galaxy for hundreds of years. While other species had joined the great galactic community, these primitive creatures had remained alone in their little corner of space. "What do we know of their defenses?" he asked. "Minimal, sir. Fusion-powered ships, kinetic weapons, chemical rockets. Their largest vessels appear to be less than half a kilometer in length. Intelligence suggests they have perhaps 50 ships total, scattered throughout their system." The bridge crew murmured appreciatively. 50 ships against 300. It would hardly be a battle at all. Kethvar felt satisfaction wash over him like warm water. The Galactic Council had dismissed the humans as irrelevant. Too far away, too primitive, too weak to matter. But Kethvar saw opportunity where others saw emptiness. This conquest would open the path to the resource-rich Centauri cluster beyond. "Prepare the standard surrender demand," he ordered. "Inform them that resistance is futile, and that cooperation will result in merciful treatment." Across the vast emptiness of space, alarms began to sound on Luna Station. Admiral Lisa Carter had been asleep when the call came through. Now she stood in the command center, her gray hair still messy from her pillow, staring at a display that showed their worst nightmare. "How many?" she asked quietly. 300 confirmed contacts, Admiral," replied Commander Ben Hughes. "They crossed into the outer system 20 minutes ago. Long-range sensors show crystalline hulls consistent with Zephyrian design." Carter felt ice form in her stomach. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as conquerors. They had crushed every opponent they had faced, absorbing entire civilizations into their crystal empire. And now they had come for Earth. "Wake, everyone," she said. "Full alert status across all commands. Begin civilian evacuations from the outer colonies immediately." The command center erupted into controlled chaos as officers rushed to their stations. Red lights flashed as emergency protocols activated throughout human space. On Mars, Europa, Titan, and dozens of smaller outposts, families began boarding evacuation ships with whatever they could carry. Captain Jake Morrison received the alert aboard his patrol ship 3 hours into his sleep cycle. The EDF Vigilant was on routine patrol near the asteroid belt when the message arrived. He read it twice before the reality sank in. "All hands to battle stations," he announced over the ship's communication system. "This is not a drill. We have hostile contacts approaching the inner system." His crew of 30 moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment their entire careers, but none of them had really believed it would come. Earth had been isolated for so long that alien invasion seemed like something from old movies. "Sir, we're receiving a fleet-wide communication," reported his communications officer. "All patrol vessels are ordered to fall back to defensive positions around Earth." Morrison nodded grimly. The Vigilant was a good ship, but she was designed for patrol work, not major combat. Against a fleet of 300 enemy vessels, the human forces would need every advantage they could get. Deep in the hidden facilities beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Helen Grant was already at work. The emergency had activated protocols that had been in place for decades but never used. Around her, technicians prepared systems that existed in no official records. "How long until the fleet reaches Earth?" she asked her assistant. 18 hours at current speed, Doctor. Admiral Carter is asking for an update on Project Nightfall. Grant smiled grimly. The aliens had made a critical error in their intelligence gathering. They saw humanity's isolation as weakness, never suspecting that it might be strength instead. For 3 centuries, while other species had shared knowledge and followed predictable paths of development, humanity had walked alone into the darkness. They had been forced to innovate, to experiment, to push beyond the boundaries that other civilizations accepted as absolute. "Tell the Admiral that Nightfall is ready," Grant said. "All systems are operational and standing by." The Zephyrian fleet continued its approach, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Admiral Kethvar watched the tactical display with satisfaction as his ships moved deeper into the human system. Soon, this would all be over. But in the darkness between worlds, human ships waited with weapons that should not exist, powered by technologies that broke the fundamental rules of physics. The galaxy was about to learn why humanity's long isolation had been the most dangerous mistake their enemies could make. The Zephyrian scout ships moved through the asteroid belt like hunters searching for prey. Commander Thexal led the advance squadron, his crystalline vessel cutting through space with deadly grace. Behind him, 29 other destroyers followed, in perfect formation. "The human defenses are pathetic," laughed his weapons officer. "Look at these sensor readings. Their ships are made of simple metal and ceramic. No energy shielding, no quantum armor, nothing but primitive materials." Thexal studied the tactical display with amusement. The human vessels looked clumsy and awkward compared to the elegant curves of Zephyrian design. Where his ships flowed like living art, the human craft appeared blocky and industrial, more like flying factories than warships. "Admiral Kethvar wants a demonstration," Thexal announced to his crew. "We will show these primitives the futility of resistance. Target their orbital stations around the Red Planet. Surgical strikes only. We want survivors to spread word of our power." The squadron accelerated toward Mars, their crystal hulls shimmering with energy fields. Each ship bristled with plasma cannons and particle beams, weapons that had shattered the defenses of a dozen worlds. Against primitive human technology, they would be unstoppable. On Mars Orbital Station 3, emergency klaxons wailed as the alien ships approached. Families clutched each other in terror as evacuation pods launched desperately toward the planet's surface. Station Commander Pete Sullivan watched from the command deck as his home prepared to die. "All civilians away, sir," reported his aide. "We're the last ones aboard." Sullivan nodded grimly. "Then let's give them something to remember us by. Activate the beacon." A single pulse of light shot out from the station toward the dark side of Phobos, Mars's larger moon. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to ripple. The USS Retribution emerged from behind Phobos like a mountain moving through water. The ship was enormous, over 1 kilometer long and half as wide. Its dark hull absorbed light rather than reflecting it, giving the vessel an ominous presence that made nearby space seem to bend around it. On the bridge of his destroyer, Thexal stopped laughing. "What is that thing?" he demanded. His sensor operator worked frantically at his station. "I don't know, sir. It's not in any of our databases. The hull appears to be made of materials I cannot identify. I'm reading massive energy signatures, but they don't match any known power systems." The human ship moved with surprising grace for something so large. It positioned itself between the Zephyrian squadron and Mars, its dark hull bristling with weapon ports that seemed to drink in starlight. Captain Amy Rodriguez stood calmly on the Retribution's bridge, her hands clasped behind her back. Around her, the command crew worked with quiet efficiency. Unlike the crystalline elegance of alien designs, the human bridge was purely functional. Every surface served a purpose, every control was within easy reach. Enemy ships are moving into attack. Formation, reported Lieutenant Chris Parker from the tactical station. 30 vessels, destroyer class, they're charging weapons. Rodriguez nodded without taking her eyes off the main screen. Let them fire first. I want a complete sensor analysis of their capabilities before we respond. Commander Pete Sullivan, who had evacuated from the station just minutes before, now served as the ship's first officer. All stations report ready, Captain. Defensive systems are active. The Zephyrian ships opened fire as one. Brilliant lances of plasma erupted from their weapons, each beam carrying enough energy to vaporize a city block. The barrage struck the Retribution's hull with the force of a small star. Thexal watched with satisfaction as his sensors registered direct hits across the human vessel's entire length. Primitive fools, he muttered. Did they think metal plates could stop Zephyrian plasma? But his satisfaction turned to confusion as the weapon impacts faded. The human ship remained intact, its dark hull glowing softly where the plasma beams had struck. Instead of burning through the armor, the alien weapons seemed to have been absorbed somehow. Impossible, whispered his sensor operator. The energy readings show their hull is actually stronger now than before we fired. Rodriguez smiled grimly as damage reports came in. 0 casualties. Hull integrity at 102%. The absorption matrix is working perfectly. How is this possible? Demanded Thexal over the communications channel. No material can absorb that much energy without melting. The human captain's voice came back calm and steady. You're about to learn that there are many things you don't understand about human engineering. We've had 300 years to work alone, and we've made some interesting discoveries. She turned to her weapons officer. Target the lead ship. Fire gravitational lance, minimum power setting. What happened next would be replayed in alien nightmares for generations. A beam of pure darkness shot from the Retribution's main gun, not carrying energy but carrying something far more dangerous. The weapon reached across space and grabbed hold of reality itself. The beam struck Thexal's destroyer, and the ship simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed by explosion or fire, but erased from reality as if it had never been built. Where moments before a proud Zephyrian warship had gleamed in the starlight, now only twisted debris and expanding plasma marked its passing. Across the alien squadron, panic spread like wildfire. The humans had just done something that violated every law of physics the Zephyrians understood. They had turned gravity into a weapon, using the fundamental force that held the universe together as a tool of war. Retreat. All ships retreat, screamed the squadron's new commander as he watched his comrades die in ways that should not be possible. But it was too late. The humans had revealed their hand, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The surviving Zephyrian ships scattered like frightened birds as the USS Retribution turned its attention to the rest of the squadron. Captain Rodriguez watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction as panic spread through the alien formation. Target. The cruiser on our port side, she ordered. Quantum torpedo spread, low yield. Lieutenant Parker's fingers danced across his console. Torpedoes armed and ready, Captain. Firing solution locked. The Retribution launched 6 sleek projectiles that moved through space like hunting wolves. Each torpedo contained something the Zephyrians had never seen before, a tiny black hole held in check by human engineering. The weapons streaked toward their target with silent death. The Zephyrian cruiser tried to defend itself. Point defense. Systems sprayed energy into space, trying to destroy the incoming torpedoes. But the human weapons were not made of matter that could be destroyed so easily. They passed through the defensive fire without slowing. When the torpedoes struck, reality twisted. The cruiser's hull began to collapse inward as artificial gravity wells formed around it. Metal that had been forged in the heart of distant stars was crushed back into its component atoms. The ship folded in on itself like paper in a giant's fist. "By the crystal throne," whispered the surviving squadron commander as he watched his comrade's ship compressed into a ball of superheated metal. What kind of monsters are these humans? Back on the flagship Eternal Dominion, Admiral Kethavar stared at the tactical display in growing horror. His perfect formation was dissolving into chaos as ship after ship vanished from his sensors. The humans were not just fighting back. They were winning with weapons that should not exist. "Sir, we're receiving emergency transmissions from the Advanced Squadron," reported his communications officer. The alien's voice shook with fear. "They say the humans have weaponized physics itself." Keithvar's four eyes studied the sensor data streaming back from the battle. The human ship, this USS Retribution, was single-handedly destroying an entire Zephyrian squadron. Its weapons defied everything his scientists claimed was possible. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked quietly. 15 and counting, sir." "The human vessel appears to be using controlled black holes as ammunition. Our ships are being crushed by artificial gravity." On Earth, Admiral Carter watched the battle unfold from the command center on Luna Station. Around her, officers monitored displays showing the engagement near Mars. What they saw was beyond their wildest hopes. "One ship," she murmured. "One human ship is destroying 30 alien destroyers." Colonel Steve Martinez nodded grimly from his position at the tactical station. "The Retribution is performing better than our simulations predicted. Captain Rodriguez and her crew are making history out there." Dr. Helen Grant stood beside them, her face illuminated by the glow of the tactical displays. For decades, she had worked on the projects that made this moment possible. Seeing her life's work in action filled her with pride and terror in equal measure. "The gravitational lance is operating at 12% capacity," she reported. "If they need more power, the Retribution can level mountains." Carter shook her head in amazement. While the galaxy had followed predictable paths of technological development, humanity had walked into darkness and emerged with weapons that could unmake reality itself. Near Jupiter, more human ships began to decloak. The UNS Harbinger materialized from its hiding place behind Europa, its experimental phase shift drive allowing it to step partially outside normal space. Captain Dan Foster watched as Zephyrian reinforcements tried to flank through the outer system. "They still don't understand," Foster said to his crew. "They think this is about numbers and firepower. They have no idea what we've become." His ship activated its quantum disruptor array. The weapon did not fire energy or projectiles. Instead, it reached across space and convinced matter that existing was optional. 3 Zephyrian battleships found their molecular bonds dissolving, as their atoms simply decided to go their separate ways. The alien vessels came apart like smoke in the wind, their crews dying before they even realized what had happened. Where proud warships had been moments before, only expanding clouds of individual atoms drifted through space. Near Earth orbit, Commander Rachel Torres brought the EDF Nemesis into the fight. Her ship specialized in temporal warfare, weapons that attacked enemies across multiple timelines simultaneously. When a group of Zephyrian ships tried to approach Earth's moon, they found themselves destroyed before they were even built. The alien vessels simply appeared as wreckage, their destruction reaching backward through time to unmake their very construction. Causality twisted into knots as human weapons treated the flow of time like another battlefield. Lieutenant Colonel Frank Davis coordinated the human response from his command ship. Unlike the rigid hierarchies of alien militaries, human crews worked with fluid adaptability. Each ship operated independently while maintaining perfect coordination with the whole fleet. "Status report from all vessels," he requested. The responses came back quickly. The Retribution had eliminated 22 enemy ships. The Harbinger had dissolved 15 more. The Nemesis had erased 8 ships from the timeline itself. Across the solar system, human vessels were demonstrating technologies that turned science, fiction into deadly reality. Admiral Keithvar watched his proud armada dissolve before weapons that violated every natural law his people understood. Gravity became a spear. Time became a sword. The very fabric of space became humanity's ammunition. "Recall all forces," he ordered, his voice hollow with defeat. "Full retreat to the edge of the system." But even as his ships tried to flee, more human vessels appeared. They had been there all along, hidden by technologies the aliens could not detect. The trap was closing, and the Zephyrian Empire was about to learn why isolation had made humanity the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Admiral Keithvar's confidence had completely vanished. What had begun as a simple conquest was turning into the worst military disaster in Zephyrian history. His 300 ships were being systematically destroyed by human vessels that should not exist. "Sir, we have lost over 60 ships," reported his tactical officer. The alien's voice was barely a whisper. "The humans are using weapons we cannot understand or defend against." More human ships appeared throughout the solar system like ghosts, materializing from thin air. Each vessel was different, unique in its design, and terrifying in its capabilities. The humans had not built a fleet, they had created a collection of nightmares. Near Jupiter's Great Red Spot, the UNS Harbinger finished its deadly work. Captain Dan Foster watched as the last Zephyrian ship in his sector dissolved into component atoms. His quantum disruptor array had turned proud warships into clouds of harmless gas. "All targets eliminated," he reported to Fleet Command. Moving to assist Sector 7, Foster's ship activated its phase shift drive, a technology that allowed it to step partially outside normal space. To the Zephyrians, the Harbinger simply vanished from their sensors, reappearing moments later behind their formation like a predator, stalking prey. The alien reinforcements had tried to flank through the asteroid belt, hoping to catch the humans off guard. Instead, they found themselves facing weapons that treated the laws of physics as gentle suggestions rather than absolute rules. The Harbinger's main weapon did not fire projectiles or energy beams. It reached across space and convinced matter that holding together was unnecessary. Entire squadrons of Zephyrian ships came apart at the molecular level, their crews dying before they could even scream. Near Earth's moon, Commander Rachel Torres was demonstrating humanity's mastery over time itself. The EDF Nemesis moved through space like a shark through water, its temporal warfare systems charging for another devastating attack. "Zephyrian cruiser formation approaching from the dark side of the moon," reported her tactical officer. 12 ships, heavy class." Torres smiled coldly. "Activate the causality disruptor. Target the lead vessel." The weapon that fired from the Nemesis did not travel through space in any conventional sense. Instead, it reached backward through time and destroyed the enemy ship before it was ever built. The Zephyrian cruiser simply appeared as wreckage, its destruction echoing backward through history. The alien crew died confused and terrified, their last moments spent watching their own ship exist as debris while their memories insisted it had been whole seconds before. Causality bent around human weapons like light around a black hole. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Kethvar watched his tactical display with growing horror. Ship after ship vanished from his sensors, not destroyed by conventional weapons but erased by technologies that should not be possible. "How?" he whispered. "How did primitive humans develop such weapons?" His science officer studied the battle data with 4 shaking hands. "Sir, I believe they have been experimenting in isolation for centuries. While we followed known paths of development, they explored territories that other species declared impossible." The truth was dawning on the Zephyrian command. Humanity's isolation had not weakened them, it had transformed them into something unprecedented. They had taken 300 years of enforced solitude and used it to rewrite the fundamental rules of warfare. Lieutenant Colonel Frank Davis coordinated the human defense from his command ship, the UNS Constitution. Around him, displays showed the systematic destruction of the alien invasion force. Each human vessel operated with deadly independence while maintaining perfect coordination with the whole fleet. "Status report from all sectors," he requested. Though, responses painted a picture of overwhelming human superiority. The Retribution continued its rampage near Mars, its gravitational weapons turning Zephyrian ships into twisted scrap metal. The Harbinger was dissolving entire squadrons into their component atoms. The Nemesis was erasing ships from the timeline itself. "Sir, we're detecting movement in the outer system," reported his sensor operator. "The main Zephyrian fleet is attempting to retreat beyond Pluto's orbit." Davis nodded grimly. "Signal all ships. Begin Phase 2 of the operation." Throughout the solar system, more human vessels began to decloak. Stealth fields that had hidden them from alien sensors dropped away, revealing the true scope of humanity's preparations. What had appeared to be 47 ships revealed itself as a carefully orchestrated deception. The real human fleet numbered over 200 vessels, each one a testament to centuries of unguided evolution in military technology. They had been there all along, waiting in the darkness between worlds for this moment. Captain Joe Reynolds commanded the UNS Phantom, a ship that existed partially outside normal space-time. His vessel could move through dimensions that other species had only theorized about, appearing and disappearing at will. Admiral Kethvar, Reynolds broadcast on an open channel. "You are surrounded. Your fleet is broken. Surrender now and you will be allowed to leave our system alive." The Zephyrian admiral stared at his sensors in disbelief. Human ships were appearing everywhere, materializing from impossible hiding places. His mighty Armada was trapped in a web of advanced technology that made his own weapons look like children's toys. "Impossible," he breathed. "How did you hide so many ships?" Reynolds' voice came back calm and patient. "We've had 3 centuries to prepare for this day. Every advancement your species made, we made 10. Every weapon you perfected, we made obsolete. You came here expecting to conquer primitives, but you found something far more dangerous." The human fleet closed in around the remaining Zephyrian ships like a net made of nightmares. Each vessel bristled with weapons that could unmake reality itself, powered by technologies that other civilizations used only for research. Admiral Kethvar finally understood the magnitude of his error. Humanity had not been isolated by accident or weakness. They had been alone because they were walking paths that other species dared not follow. And now they had returned from that darkness with powers that seemed almost divine. The moment of complete revelation came like dawn breaking over a battlefield. Across the solar system, stealth fields shimmered and died as the true human fleet revealed itself. Where the Zephyrians had seen empty space, death machines materialized. From the darkness, Admiral Kethvar stood frozen on his bridge as his sensors tried to process the impossible. 200 human ships surrounded his broken Armada, each one a unique nightmare of advanced engineering. His proud fleet of 300 vessels had been reduced to barely 90 operational ships, trapped like insects in a web. "How many?" he whispered to his tactical officer. 212 confirmed human vessels, sir. They were hidden by stealth technologies our sensors cannot detect. They have been watching us the entire time." The flagship of the human fleet emerged from behind Earth's moon like a mountain moving through space. The UNS Sovereign was larger than anything the Zephyrians had ever built, its dark hull bristling with weapon systems that hurt to look at directly. Admiral Lisa Carter stood on the Sovereign's bridge, her gray hair now perfectly neat despite the early morning alarm that had started this day. Around her, the command crew monitored displays showing the complete tactical situation. The alien invasion force was finished. "Open a channel to the Zephyrian flagship," she ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Kethvar's terrified face. His 4 eyes darted nervously around his bridge while his crew worked frantically at damaged stations. The proud alien commander looked like a broken creature. "Admiral Kethvar," Carter said calmly. "I am Admiral Lisa Carter of the Earth Defense Force. You have 2 choices: surrender immediately and be allowed to leave our system, or discover what other innovations humanity has developed during our long isolation." Kethvar tried to speak but found his voice failing. Around his flagship, human vessels moved with predatory grace. Each ship was different from the others, as if humanity had decided that conventional military design was too limiting for their purposes. Captain Joe Reynolds of the UNS Phantom demonstrated human restraint by simply existing near the alien flagship. His ship's experimental gravitic shielding created a pocket of altered spacetime that made conventional weapons completely useless. Energy beams bent around the human vessel like light around a black hole. "Your weapons cannot harm us," Reynolds broadcast on an open channel. "We have learned to manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. Gravity, time, space itself, all serve as our weapons now." The Zephyrian science officer studied his readings with growing panic. "Sir, their ship is existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Our targeting systems cannot lock onto it. It's like trying to shoot at a ghost." More human ships moved into position around the alien fleet. The UNS Tempest activated its reality anchor, a device that prevented enemy ships from using faster-than-light travel. Escape was no longer possible for the Zephyrians. Captain Lisa Park commanded the Tempest with quiet confidence. Her ship specialized in battlefield control, using technologies that other species considered theoretical impossibilities. Space around the alien fleet became thick and sticky, trapping them like flies in amber. "Dimensional locks engaged," she reported to Fleet Command. "The aliens cannot jump to hyperspace, they cannot escape through subspace, they are completely contained." Dr. Helen Grant monitored the situation from her hidden laboratory beneath Luna's surface. Decades of secret research had led to this moment. While other species had shared knowledge and followed safe paths, humanity had walked alone into the unknown and returned with godlike powers. "All experimental systems are performing within acceptable parameters," she reported to Admiral Carter. "We can maintain this level of technological superiority indefinitely." Admiral Kethvar finally found his voice, though it shook with terror and disbelief. "This is impossible. No species develops this fast. Your people were using chemical rockets just centuries ago." Admiral Carter's expression remained calm and professional. "That's exactly why we developed this fast. Isolation forced us to innovate. While you followed predictable technological paths, we had to create our own solutions. We turned our loneliness into strength." The human admiral gestured to the tactical display showing both fleets. "Every species in the galaxy has had help, guidance, established science to build upon. We had nothing but our own minds and 300 years of uninterrupted research time." Commander Ben Hughes stepped forward from his position at the tactical station. "We weaponized concepts that other civilizations use only for research. Black holes became our ammunition. Time itself became our battlefield. We turned theoretical physics into practical instruments of war." The truth was finally sinking in for the Zephyrian command crew. Humanity had not been hiding in their remote system because they were weak. They had been there because they were developing capabilities that other species considered impossible. "What are you?" Kethvar asked in a broken voice. Carter considered the question carefully. "We are what happens when a species is forced to survive alone. We are what innovation looks like when there are no rules to follow. We are humanity, and we have been preparing for this day for 3 centuries. The alien admiral looked around his bridge at his terrified crew, then at the tactical display showing human ships surrounding his fleet like hungry wolves. His empire's reputation lay in ruins. His mighty armada was trapped and helpless. With no other choice remaining, Admiral Kethvar did the only rational thing left. He activated his fleet-wide communications and broadcast his surrender on all frequencies, ensuring that every species in the galaxy would hear his words. "This is Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. I surrender unconditionally to the human forces. Let it be known throughout the galaxy that humanity is not to be threatened. They are beyond our understanding, beyond our capabilities. We were fools to challenge them." As the broken alien fleet began its long journey home, word of the battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The humans were no longer isolated primitives hiding in their distant system. They were innovators who had turned solitude into overwhelming strength. From that day forward, no alien fleet would approach human space without remembering the lesson learned in the Sol system. Humanity had shown the galaxy what 3 centuries of forced innovation could achieve, and the universe would never forget.